Hello, hello, and welcome to the 108th episode of the SheGulls podcast. We are the one and only podcast dedicated to Brighton Hove Albion women's football team. And as ever, I am joined by my fellow Albion fans, Ben. Hello, Ben.
Hi, Duncan.
And by Claire. Hello, Claire.
Hello, Duncan.
Hooray.
Hello.
We're back. That was nice and seamless, wasn't it? 108. Every time I say 100 and something, it just makes me realise how many of these things we've done. So we've chatted a lot
now, isn't it?
Chatted a lot of nonsense. There's a lot more nonsense to come. So there we go. the odd tidbit of the odd golden nugget here and there, bit of wisdom. So yeah, it's been a week. There's been a few things going on, not a ton. But we have got a match to talk about, so we're going to be talking about that imminently. But we are going to start with some breaking news. Might be pushing it a little bit. It sort of happened about, I think it was 4 or 5 hours ago, something like that. News started to trickle out. But essentially, it is that Fuka Sonoda is going on loan to Crystal Palace for the season. So that is an interesting one. Which we can have a little chat about at the moment. But I'll start with you, if I may, Claire. What was your sort of initial reaction to Fuka going out on loan?
Well, I mean, personally, a bit disappointed because I really like her. I think she's. I don't think she's ever not offered something when she's come on in a game. But obviously, she's a very young player, so I think this is probably the time, rather than just sitting on the bench waiting for your 5 minutes at the end of a game against Aston Villa, maybe you get a few games somewhere else. And I think the fact that it's another WSL team means hopefully that's experience that's actually valid for her coming back to Brighton, rather than, sitting on the bench somewhere at Bristol or some other place that never plays her. But yeah, I can't imagine she's not going to get game time, because she is a good player. And fingers crossed she comes back at the end of the season and gets into our team, because, I think she's got a lot to offer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Ben, what was your sort of, when you saw it? Did you see Fuka in a Crystal Palace shirt? Was that the first thing you saw, or was it just a message come through?
Yeah, well, I got the message, and it was like, what? But yeah, I think kind of agree with Claire that it sort of, I think it would probably be another season of her being on the bench and playing. I mean, similar to Carla Camacho, to sitting on the bench playing a few minutes here and there at the end of games, or starting games like the one that the Arsenal game where we were kind of resting lots of other key players and things. And I think she is an exceptional player. I think we've seen some amazing things from her, but I think she needs minutes to develop that. And I think that it's very much like they're doing the proper loan thing, where we genuinely do rate her as a future talent, and we genuinely want her next season or whatever. So we want her to get more experience, more minutes. I mean, it's I think we kind of did sort of wonder, didn't we? Because they haven't put an enormous amount of content out from the Dutch camp and then obviously the trip to Barca, outside the actual Barca match and things. But there was a gallery and there was a video, and obviously we saw the Barca game live and things, and she was missing basically. So we did sort of speculate that maybe she was going to be the one that went out, because apart from anything else, she's not a homegrown player and that kind of thing. So it makes sense from that perspective. I mean, the Palace thing is interesting, obviously, because of the big inverted commas rivalry between the two men's teams. But I think, as you said earlier, it doesn't really exist in the women's game, and I wouldn't want to build it up, because I think it doesn't need it. I think I said to you earlier, the only way I want to view the two games against Palace in the WSL this year are that it's two games that we should win against a team that isn't as good as us. and any building it up any more than that just adds an extra bit of whatever, which puts more pressure on people.
Probably helps anything.
So I think there. I don't think their midfield is hugely stacked. Obviously, they've signed a few players and stuff, but I don't think they've got anyone that would necessarily stop her from playing entirely. So hopefully, she should get some good minutes.
Yeah, I mean, some fantastic points there. I think I absolutely agree on the fact that there doesn't need to be any animosity towards like Crystal Palace. I mean, I do get the kind of lingering feeling that it's nice to get one over on them in a way, being a men's team fan, but you don't need to have that. It's not mutually exclusive. Like you can not have that and still want to win the game. And also I think obviously we have to sort of guard against it being anything more than that kind of thing of like, well, there are rivals in the men's game, so it's nice to get one over on them. But, because I do think for the most part, it probably helps the team that's the underdog to have the rivalry. That's played out over the years. So
I think the men's Palace team does disproportionately well against Brighton because of the edge to the game. It's always there's those lovely images of Solly March sliding to his knees and putting his fingers to his lips in front of the Palace fans and stuff. But there's a hell of a lot of other times when it's gone the other way. When you compare the quality of the squads and that kind of stuff, it really shouldn't have done. So I think the needle and the edge and the rivalry and stuff kind of is to Palace's advantage. I think now, possibly the other way around when they were the bigger team than Brighton, but these days I think it gives Palace a bit of an edge.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. I mean, in terms of experience for Fuka, I think obviously Crystal Palace are an up and coming team. I mean, they've sort of bounced back, haven't they, after yo-yoing over the last sort of 2 or 3 years. So I would say that they could probably do with some strengthening in their midfield, and I'd like to see Fuka getting games.
Yeah,
but they're not maybe a team that's going to get thrashed every week. So I think sometimes that can be detrimental to a player if you go on loan to a team and they're just losing and losing and losing, you can get bad habits when you come back to your actual team, and you're kind of just conditioned into accepting that that's okay and blah, blah, blah. So I think Palace are competitive enough where they'll give a few teams a tough go. But I do think that she will probably get used by them. I'm not sure she would be a starter, but I think she could get Subway Cup games. She could get some substitute minutes, and who knows, if she does really well in those, then they'd be fools not to use her more often. So yeah, I mean, it's a good opportunity, and I think we should hold off from sort of clouding any judgment with what goes on in the men's game as to where she's gone. I'm sure the club wouldn't have entertained loaning her to Crystal Palace if they were like, well, they're just doing it to screw us over or muck about,
I don't think it's anything like that. I think
no.
I think actually, to be fair, I think we might have even looked at it and gone, she's a young girl on her own. She's made friends in Brighton. That's where all her she's settled there. Crystal Palace isn't that far away. It's like if she's feeling a bit homesick or whatever, she can always come back and find her friends in Brighton. She can visit. She can stay in probably her own house in Brighton and go back to Palace. So, once her days off are over and things like that. So it's not like she's going to the other end of the country and, she's miles away from everyone. It's probably going to be quite nice for her to be reasonably local to everything she knows.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not, like you say, it's not a million miles away from home, and it's good to have the experience of playing for different teams. Obviously, you want her to be able to get the opportunity for us, but there's something to be said for being adaptable and all those sorts of things. So I'm not quite sure whether Palace have got any other Japanese players, but Fuka doesn't strike me as a player who would let that bother her, to be honest with you.
But it is nice, isn't it, to have people around who speak your language and things like that when you want to ask something quickly and not have to struggle with a second language and things. But I just think it's good. I would like to see a couple of others go out on loan, to be honest, rather than just sitting on the bench doing nothing every season. I think like Bex Rayner for a start, just getting the odd minutes here and there is probably not that good for her. I think it wouldn't hurt to go out on loan for a bit. So I don't know. I don't know why everybody in the chat is having an issue with us lagging. I see you two perfectly, so I don't know.
Yeah, I can see you guys all right.
There's literally no issue on my end or your end.
No, it's a bit strange, really. But we will upload it afterwards. So if people are still having problems, then we'll let you know. I think sometimes with the stream, like the connection to YouTube can sometimes be an issue if YouTube's having problems or whatever. So
and also the weather is not, it looks a bit stormy coming, so
quite
I think
possibly so hopefully it will improve. If you're watching, if you're listening, it will probably all be fine anyway, because as long as we can hear each other. If you're listening on the podcast,
we can see each other and hear each other, so that's
so we'll keep going, and worst case scenario, everyone will watch it on catch up. I'll upload it, it's not a problem. So good.
As far as I can tell, they don't have, just looking at the Paris wiki page, they don't have any Japanese players. They're not an enormous squad, actually, looking at this, if it's up to date. And obviously Justine van Havermaet was presumably going to be one of their key midfielders, and she is currently 7 months pregnant. So
yes, I was going to say,
until at least Christmas, if not sort of Easter or something. So there's a midfield waiting for. That's something to look forward to. If Justine comes back, because obviously Justine van Havermaet is she taller than Caitlin Hayes? I'm not sure, but she's quite the tall person, and obviously Fuka is not. So I'd like to see those two playing side by side in midfield.
That would be great if it could happen. We'll be keeping a close eye on Fuka anyway. I think we will. We always keep a close eye on the table, and we always keep a close eye on our loanees, as we'll come to a little bit later. So good luck, Fuka. Into the bulk of our show this evening. Before the news about Fuka broke, we are going to talk a little bit about the friendly against Barcelona. So I know some of you, a bit like this podcast, some of you will have been able to watch it easily. Some of you have found it more difficult. Some people weren't able to watch it at all. Some people were tuning into radio feeds. I don't know if there was a dodgy YouTube or something like that, but as a purveyor of technology, I managed to watch the game. We did unfortunately lose the game by 3-1, but there was positives to take, definitely. Obviously playing probably one of, if not the best team maybe in the world. I mean, certainly in Europe, but I think you could probably extrapolate that out. Ben, what did you make of the game from what you've seen? I know there's been highlights afterwards, so from what you've seen, what did you make of it all?
I've managed to watch the whole thing back, actually, because the whole 90 minutes is there up on the Barcelona YouTube. So I think there was a certain amount of sort of playing the occasion at the start. I think there's a lot of international players. We obviously had the FA Cup final a few months ago, but it's still like a really big deal playing against someone like Barcelona. And obviously it's not Camp Nou, but the Stadio Johan Cruyff is I wonder if Zoe was looking at it going, this would be an interesting sort of model for the one that we're looking to build on Bennettsfield. I think possibly a little bit rabbit in headlights for a little while, but I think they came into it. They acquitted themselves really well, as you say, they're arguably the best team in the world. And I think it's very interesting that the 3 goals they scored against us, like 2 of them were basically long balls over the top, and the pacey players got in behind, and the second one was, Manu was unfortunately dispossessed halfway, and Caroline Graham Hansen got in and goal from that. And I think the fact that we got 1, that it's really interesting that we're the first ever away team to score in the Johan Gamper Trophy. is a credit to the team and a credit to the way they played. And I think, maybe Barcelona weren't quite expecting someone to sort of not just roll over on their sort of little special presentation night, but it was and I think especially the second half, which was 0-0, we were equal to them, I think, a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I feel like it's happened in a lot of games where we've not necessarily played particularly well the first half, and then it feels like when Dario's had time to get them in and have a chat to them and talk to them about tactics, and maybe having a reshuffle or being able to advise them what the opposition are trying to do and all this sort of thing. It's amazing how often we are coming out in the second half of games and it's almost like chalk and cheese virtually. So yeah, very interesting that it was kind of 3-1 in the first half and 0-0 in the second. Claire, I think you managed to watch it live, didn't you? So what did you sort of make of the result, and I guess overall how Brighton played?
Yeah, I think we outdid our expectations. I don't think Barcelona expected us to do what we did, especially second half. I mean, I would quite like maybe whatever it is Dario says at half time, he could say before the game kicks off.
That would be the ideal,
because clearly he clearly gives them a rocket up their backside, or he does something during the second half, in the interval that says, come on. So I think, try doing that first half before we go out. But yeah, I think it was an element like the FA Cup, I think, of you're kind of like in this massive stadium. But I don't feel like that was a massive issue for us. I think we just got caught out a bit. We definitely looked like a team that was in the middle of pre-season, playing a team that has been gelled together for the last 5 years and is very, very good at what they do. I think had we been another week or so into our training in our pre-season, we might have been a bit less leggy in the departments that some of the players looked a little bit tired still, like they weren't quite at full capacity sort of yet. And I still say we need to organise that striker role and find a route through, because we have so much possession. We get the ball to a certain point and then it just all falls apart. We don't have that final ball. And so, I think if we had that final ball, if we had the player that's going to knock more goals in just off their backside or whatever, I think Barca might have been a little bit squeaky bum time towards the end of that game, because it only needed one goal from us in the second half and we'd be on it. So I think, they are an exceptional team. They are very, very good at scoring goals. We know that. They regularly put 5, 6, 7 past people. They didn't look like they were ever going to do that against us. I think even in the first half, when we weren't quite at the races yet, 3-1 was a little bit generous, I think, really. I don't think we looked like a team that was losing 3-1. And we certainly didn't play that in the second half. So, I think everything to hold their heads up and take into the big games that we've got lined up in the WSL. Because if you can do that against Barca, if you did that against Palace, Charlton, Birmingham, etc., you're winning those games. And those are the games we actually need to win. So, it's fun to go off and play someone like Barcelona in a pointless cup that doesn't mean anything to us, that we're never expected to win. It's fun to go and do that, but it doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things for us, does it? We need to beat Arsenal on the 6th of September, and we need to go to Birmingham the week after and do them. So, if they take some confidence from it, then brilliant. But I'm not worried about the result of it.
No, and I think there's some teachable moments in there as well. Like I wouldn't say the negatives, but the parts of the game that didn't go so well, I think you can analyse those and try to circumvent them, try to work to negate them in the future. There was the first couple of goals, they got down our right hand side with long balls, like Ben said, that really, like as soon as they were in a foot race, there was just no chance that our defender was going to catch them in either case, or even really come across and be able to make much of a challenge. And then the third one, we kind of get, it's not a great pass to Manu, and she kind of gets robbed in possession. And I feel like what I saw was us play reasonably well, but lose based on a couple of mistakes. And I think that, to be honest with you, that has kind of rolled over from last season. And I hope, and I think this pre-season we've eliminated a lot of that. But the trouble is, Barcelona, other teams, we'll come on very briefly to Genk in a little bit. They might have done that 3 or 4 times to us and not scored. In fact, we did it to Barcelona 3 or 4 times, and we only scored once. That we had other chances to score. Whereas it was like a player came out of position, or they got in behind us, and bang, it's a goal. And that is, if you want to boil it down, if Brighton ever want to get to that level, they know they're not at it right now. But I think, like you say, against other opposition, and having learnt those lessons of what can happen, everyone should be the better for it, because we did compete with them. They had most of their starters out in the first half. Probably, I think, with the exception of Bonmati, who I think had a knock. But, Patry was there, and Graham Hansen, and Vicky Lopez, and, all their starters were out. And we weren't getting battered. We were just making a mistake, and we were paying for it. And, that is what a team like Barcelona will do to you, especially if you're a kind of a mid-level WSL side. That's just what's going to happen 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. And that was what I meant by, like, they're a team that have been gelled for the last 5 years. They're going to jump on those mistakes. They're experienced enough to know that if they just keep knocking this ball forward, at one point you're going to miss it, because you're expecting them to do something else. And so, they just capitalize on your inexperience. And we are inexperienced, yes, we had some great results last season, but this is still a very new, very young team. And so it's very inexperienced. It's not, we don't have masses of, yes, we've got players who play for their national countries, but they're mostly on the fringe of their countries. They're not necessarily playing every tournament, every game. So everything we had on the pitch versus everything Barcelona had on the pitch, I don't think we embarrassed ourselves. And
Absolutely
that's really,
not, no.
That could have been the case. You could have gone there and got walloped 8-0 and really, shown who was the boss. And we didn't. We held our own for the most part. So, I think that's all right.
Yeah, it was definitely, like I say, a good learning experience, and there were a lot of positives to take from it. And like I say, I think when I looked at it overall, I thought Dario's going to be annoyed about the goals, but he's not going to be annoyed about the performance. And that was kind of what he said in his post-match, was that, he wasn't really happy with the manner that we conceded the goals, but he was very proud of the overall performance. And he is a manager who can separate the two and go, look, we were playing against Barcelona. They had 3 chances. They put them all away, and they didn't really need to do much else other than that, except a bit of defending against us. So, he's realistic to know that those were errors that we need to, correct. And I think probably more presciently would be to realize that we have a weakness against that, because if I was another WSL team, I'd be thinking, if you can get in behind them, you're gone. You're going to get one-on-one with the goalkeeper. So keep pumping them long balls.
If you've got a bit of speed.
So it's kind of Dario's job now to go, how do we stop now teams thinking that's all they have to do to beat us,
Yeah, I think that is the worry for me with letting Rakimaki go, in that little bit of speed on the right-hand side that she had isn't there now. Charlie does a great job with defending and getting forward, but once she's gone forward, getting back it's not there at the moment for her, whether that's coming or not, whether she's just, not fully fit yet or whatever. I don't know, but we saw it quite a lot last season that she would get caught out with that ball over the top and not getting back. So I think we have to accommodate for that. If we're going to play her as the right side of defending, the other centre backs are going to have to know that if she moves forward, you're in the right side, you're taking her spot. Do you know what I mean? But then that opens us up down the middle. So I don't know how we get around that.
Yeah, I was surprised how far forward she was going based on the fact that we were only playing 2 centre backs. I think you can afford to get caught occasionally as an attacking fullback if you're playing 3 centre backs, because there should always be someone on your side to cover you. And the trouble is, and we've spoken about this before, I think I mentioned about Caitlin, the goal against Chelsea, where Baltimore goes past Charlie, and then that drags Caitlin out to cover her. But because we're playing a back 4, that then means we've only got 1 central defender. I think you can be a bit more forgiving on the wide, out wide, if you've got more cover in the middle. Otherwise, I thought in this instance, bringing on Marriott away shored it up. I think there's probably 2 main reasons for that. Me and Ben had a little chat about this back and forth. I think partly was the fact that it was Esme Breutz who was down that wing, and Marriott away is Dutch and about the same age. So they've played together. They'll have seen each other a lot. So she would have known what Breutz's game was. I also think Marriott doesn't go forward anywhere near as much as Charlie. And I did personally think that Marriott didn't have a great game against PSG. So this is not me kind of going, oh, I'm sort of camp Marriott away at right back. I think there's still questions there, because I'm pretty sure she got took off at half time, if I remember rightly, against PSG. But certainly the first half when she was down our side, there were a few iffy back passes, and it wasn't great, and I think she probably acknowledged that herself. Then you've got a game here where she comes on and is an improvement on Charlie. So you're still sort of searching, you're still probing to see who is actually the answer. I think probably the answer would have been, had she been fit, Mylese, because although she's not an out right back, she has a lot more pace and drive, I would say, than both of those 2 players. Maybe not as good on the ball as Charlie, because Charlie can be good on the ball, but she can't get up and back with regularity. And I think it's not Marriott's game to get up in the first place. So you're sacrificing something. You either sacrifice pace or you sacrifice an attacking outlet on that side. So it'll be interesting to see. There's
it was interesting the team we played, the team we picked, because it clearly we didn't our first 11 that started the game is clearly not the first 11 that's going to start in the WSL. I don't think. Like, it was kind of a bit like the PSG. I think there was a bit of a half and half of first team starters and a few extras, and then second half bringing on the others and giving everyone a bit of a run out. So again, I don't think we took it as seriously as like we want to win this. I mean, obviously you do, but I think it was used as a let's get as much experience out of this for as many players as we can,
Was there anyone, I'll come to you on this, Ben, was there anyone who particularly stood out, you thought, for Brighton?
I think, Kiko had a good time, partly because Esme Brooks was kind of nominally their left back, but she basically spent most of the time in our half. So Kiko, they just left the space behind her. So Kiko was getting into that a lot. Obviously, that's where her goal came from. I think it was quite funny because you can tell. I mean, maybe they didn't bother to do their homework on Kiko, but they basically was, the defenders were steering her towards the corner of the 6-yard box. It's like, guys, that's where she scored most of her goals from last season. So I think
she likes a short angle.
She did sort of very well. I think getting in behind them. Although again, I think there's a couple of her finishes might have been better. I think Manu had a fantastic game as well. I mean, the Barcelona commentators, who may or may not feature earlier in this podcast, basically were sort of kind of commenting that basically Eva Payor hadn't had a sort of proper chance. And basically because she was being, I think I'm very fair. It wasn't very physical either, but basically she was taken out of the game by Manu. And I think actually, well, she probably ought to have been booked in the first half because she basically, Manu jumped for the ball and she basically walked underneath her and pulled her leg, knocked her over in the air, kind of thing. So I think Payor had a very frustrating night because of Manu. I think, obviously, I don't know how much sort of history there is with her obviously being at Real Sociedad. I don't know, but that was very impressive. And I think just generally, I think once there was a little bit of rabbit in headlights at the beginning, but once everybody got going, I thought everybody acquitted themselves, and it was, you almost didn't know it was like a mid-table WSL team against I'd call it the best team in the world. And I suppose later on, I think I would have liked to have seen particularly Livy Garcia a bit earlier, because she came on with about 15 minutes to go, because she was tearing them to pieces. She had a absolutely basically beat. She didn't get in behind the defense. She beat the defender on their left. Wasn't Brooks by then. I can't remember who it was, but put in a great cross. I think Sophie Pesquet was quite unlucky not to have scored. I think Tyler McCamey or whatever.
Yeah,
I think she was much busier than Katakoi had been in the first half.
Definitely.
But equally, both of them were much busier than Melina Lurk and latterly Eleanor Heaps. And obviously OG, had a lovely shot from just outside the box that probably 6 inches over maybe. So on another day she gets that a little bit lower, and that could have been 3-2 and squeaky Barcelona bums. It's funny as well because the Barcelona commentators, the co-commentator, I don't know who it was, I think it was a former player, just said, "Oh, she obviously just wants to score against Barcelona."
Well, who doesn't?
Yeah, I mean,
I want to score against Barcelona.
She obviously wants to score because she's playing football and she's going.
Yeah.
And I think maybe there was another pass on, but it's like she's a striker. She's going to have a shot. She's going to be right to have a shot. So I think just generally speaking, I think again, I mean, some of the late substitutions. Again, Sophie Pesquet impressing. Ulau was good. I mean, she had a bit of a. I think again, these commentators wanted her sent off because she had that late tackle on Sydney Schurtenlieb. But it was late. It was a trip. It wasn't a leg breaker or anything like that. So it wasn't. It was a different yellow. But
show them the rugby tackle that PSG did against us.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Where they didn't even get booked.
There were. I think there was a player that got booked for Barcelona for basically pulling somebody back. But I think there were 2 or 3 Barcelona players ought to have got booked.
Because we had a few booked, didn't we?
Yeah, Maisie got booked for a similar late tackle. Actually, again, it wasn't dangerous; it was just late. But again, I mean, another thing. I mean, 5 minutes at the end, bit of a cameo. But I mean, how great was that for Taylor Warren? Just getting minutes at Barcelona for such a young player.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you say, it's an experience to be there. It's an experience to, for those younger players and stuff. And, I think it was obviously, a really good sort of something like a pinnacle of the preseason almost to kind of be working towards. And you knew that you had this game. Obviously, they would have known it would be tough. And I expect in the back of their minds, they probably knew that it was unlikely that they were going to win. But, they went out there and acquitted themselves well, did everything that, anyone could have asked them for. And like you say, there'll probably be better teams or so-called better teams than Brighton who will get beaten a lot more than 3-1 by Barcelona this season.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was a really good, a really good experience for everyone. So speaking of which, if you are listening to this and you have a little bit more time later in the week, we will be doing a bonus episode, as we've talked about before, SheGulls Extra, where we'll be talking to Charlie. Many of you might know Charlie, and Charlie is always in the chat under his handle @DoggyDoo62. I don't know what that's about. Maybe we can ask him. But
we need to know.
Maybe not. But yeah, we're gonna have Charlie on SheGulls Extra, and we're gonna talk about his experience going out to Barcelona and what that was like. So yeah, that'll be a bit of fun, but we can get some additional context and stuff. But I must admit, I was watching. I think everyone was almost watching like a different feed. I was watching it on Cat 3 which I think was suggested by Tim, who's also in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
And I did need a Spanish VPN for that, but that was all that was required. So didn't mind that at all. But they kept showing pictures of the crowd, and I thought, oh, they're going to go like, oh, isn't it cool that, you know, Brighton have got some supporters? Did they show the Brighton supporters once? Did they bugger?
No.
It was. I was like, even if we'd had like 50, if you get 50 fans at West Ham, the TV at one point will go, oh, look at the good, you know, look that West
especially
Ham
when we've just equalised.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas they were like, oh, look at this Barcelona fan. Look at this Barcelona. If we know there's Barcelona fans there, can we not get like a little close up and see if we can see our mates on the TV? No, not allowed, apparently. They even went to the same group of Barcelona fans, like 3 or 4 different times. I was like, they're still in the same position doing the exact same thing they were doing before. Where's Joe? Where's Amy? Where's, you know, where's Sam? Like, we want to see our friends, and, you know. So, but yeah, very, very, very briefly they would be on the TV, but you really had to, like, you know, it was a bit ridiculous, really. I mean, but there we go. They were all there cheering everyone on. So
one more thing on the game and Ulag as well. There was a perfectly good goal disallowed at the end as well. You know, there was a ball through, and Ulag and Tyler McKennie basically both went for it, and Ulag won it fairly. As far, you know, I've seen various replays of it. Ulag won it fairly. And then I think Kiko just tapped it in, and it was a perfectly good goal. You know, I can say I've got no idea why that was disallowed. It was at Barcelona. It was an exhibition match that Barcelona were going to win, so that's why it was disallowed.
Yeah, there was no way they could allow us to get within a sniff of it within 5 minutes to go.
That was a bit unlucky. I think you know, in an ordinary game, in a WSL game, or, you know, something like that goal might well have stood.
Yeah, it was the classic friendly decision, wasn't it? You know, we're at home, we're at Barcelona's ground. We don't need to make it close on a controversial decision or whatever. Not that it was controversial, but, you know, it wasn't controversial because they know Brighton are going to go, oh, well, you know, it doesn't mean anything, but, you know, it meant something to us, damn it.
Well, I think if we'd have got that goal, it's 3-2, and I think we'd have thrown the kitchen sink at them. And they might have scored 2 more goals themselves, because we would have been open at the back, giving it large. But it would have been entertaining, wouldn't it? You know, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's a friendly.
Yeah, the other, I guess, something to muse about is the fact that my understanding is the original match graphic had Leah Valti starting, and then when they reissued it or edited it or whatever, not only was she not starting, she wasn't on the bench. So whether that was not a speculative lineup to begin with, but maybe that was a lineup that had been provided quite far in advance, and she picked up something on the day. Or the other thing is, obviously, you know, something like if you've got illness or you've had you know, bad bit of food or something while you're out there, then, you know, they're not going to risk you, and nor should they. So obviously we hope Leah Valti's, you know, okay, and hopefully good to go for the start of the season. But what I would say is, I thought in particular when Barcelona were having the majority of the possession and stuff like that, it was Patry. It was all done by Patry pretty much. It all ran through her. Like, you know, Hansen scored a goal, Broit scored a goal, but it was the Patry show for the first half an hour. And I sort of thought, I wonder if Leah Valti had have started, whether we might have just had a bit more of an edge. Because Patry strikes me as the sort of player who, if you're a bit younger and you've not got so much European experience, like Maisie or Yorimo, that she knows what she needs to do to kind of circumvent that. Whereas you play against a sort of, I was going to say a wily old veteran. That's a bit harsh, isn't it? But, you know, a veteran of Champions League football, a veteran of the international scene. It feels, I sort of wondered if Valti had played, would she have put her thumb on Patry a little bit more? But I think obviously the main thing is we want her to be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, an interesting thing to muse about. If we play them again with a full strength team,
we'll have them.
We'll have them.
Yeah.
We'll have them.
Bring them to the Broadfield.
Yeah. I think
rematch.
the whole point of it is, that was the 5th edition of the Women's Johan Gamper Trophy. In the first 2021, they beat Juve 6-0. In 2022, they beat Montpellier 6-0. 2023, they beat Juve 5-0. Last year, Milan did well and only got beaten 2-0. They only beat us 3-1. That's what I mean. We scored against Barcelona in their showpiece game. So we're the only team to do that, and we only conceded 3, whereas most of the others, obviously not Milan last year, but most of the others, 6-0, 6-0, 5-0, we conceded far fewer goals than the other teams, and we scored one, which I think is an amazing achievement, really. And especially, when you say, I don't know what the circumstances for the 6 Montpellier goals against Montpellier were, but considering basically they did us with long balls, we got beaten 3-1 by Wimbledon, basically. I think just on the whole, I think just it's just a really, really big result for the club. We didn't win, we weren't humiliated, the only team to ever score an away goal. So I think it's fantastic, amazing tick in the box for the club, and it's really nice as well. I think we were talking about Zoe Johnson not wanting to be in the foreground and stuff with this new stadium, which I think she should be, because I think she deserves the credit. But there's some lovely pictures of those presentations and stuff, and it's got various Barcelona dignitaries, and there's Patry with the cup, and there's Zoe Johnson there as well, which I think is fantastic. Because again, I don't know how we got the invitation, but I'm sure there's a lot of credit should be going Zoe's way.
Maybe they'll loan us another striker.
Well, yeah, we
did get Bruno, didn't we?
There were pictures after the game of Manu and Moeka chatting to Aitana Bonmati, so you never know. I've been trailing that for a couple of seasons now, so it's going to happen.
You've been putting it out there into the ether.
Yeah.
There we go. So from one friendly to rewind slightly a few days before. This also might have contributed. I know you. I think it was you that mentioned, Ben. They were maybe a bit leggy. I think you said as well, Claire, that we needed to make.
We look like we're in the middle of our pre-season.
Yeah, and it
flying as well, back and forth everywhere. I know it's only a couple of hours, but it's still travel time. You still got to be at the airport 2 hours early. You've got to be up early. You're packed, and it is exhausting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it sounds to me like, I think even Dario mentioned they were it had come quite quickly after that Genk friendly. And I think, bearing in mind what we heard at the fans forum, it felt a little bit like Barcelona obviously came in at a certain point when we perhaps already organised the majority of our pre-season.
I think we were supposed to play Arsenal.
Yeah, so I'd be interested to know if we went, we could still play that Genk one and then play Barcelona, because it didn't feel like an ideal amount of time. I think it was 3 days,
if that.
Maybe
Tuesday night.
I think it was Tuesday night. Yeah. So they did come in quite quick succession. That probably would have played a little bit into the team selection against Genk, to be fair, because we did go on to beat them 3-0. However, all 3 goals were in the first half. So that time, Dario gave him the team talk in the first half. And then in the second half, he said, "All right, put your feet up from here."
Yeah.
No, he would never say
it definitely works. I think first half rocket, second half go and show them now who you are.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't got a lot of information. I don't even think we've got the lineups. We did get the goal scorers. So 2 for Tvetten and 1 for Taylor Warren, as I say, all before half time. There's not been any highlights as far as I've seen, so we don't know what the goals were like, but it sounds like one of Ollie's was a bit of a curler from the sort of edge of the box, so that's nice. Obviously she did get on against Barcelona as well. But I don't think it was necessarily. I think if they could have had a do-over and moved everything how they wanted it, they probably wouldn't have played Genk 3 days before Barcelona. But when you do commit to going on these pre-season tours, you don't want to get a reputation of just going, Barcelona have asked us to play a game, so goodbye. We don't give a monkeys about Genk anymore. It's like, you never know. Like, we might be setting up a relationship with some of these teams.
It's part of Genk's pre-season plans as well.
Exactly.
So if we pull out, then they haven't got a game, have they? So.
Yeah. So yeah, not a lot to say on that one, other than we did win 3-0, and up until Barcelona, we were unbeaten in the pre-season. But I would
we
like
have got a lineup because there was a gallery.
Oh, we have got a lineup. Oh, good.
Website, yeah. So I mean, Eleanor Heaps started that one, which is nice. Moeka was captain, which is lovely. And then, I mean, again, I don't know the exact formation, but Marit Owe, Emily Gay, Gabby George started. And then midfield, Taylor Warren, Emilia Yorimo, and Sophie Pesquet, Ulau Fetten. And then up front, I presume, I don't know what the formation was, maybe 4-4-2 was Livia Garcia and Emily Murphy.
And you see, that makes perfect sense because none of them started against Barcelona.
Yora did.
That's what I was going to say. So Yorimo did because I bet Valti was supposed to.
She came in for Leo Valti, yeah.
Bet.
There would have been some substitutions, obviously, but yeah, again, it was two guys from Olaug and one from Taylor Warren. So yeah, how much are we going to see of Taylor Warren this season? That could be interesting.
Yeah, hopefully.
Let's hope that the cup games we are going to see quite a lot of our young uns.
Yeah,
that don't go out on loan anyway. So
I'd like to see, instead of bringing them on in cup games, I'd like to see a few of them actually start some cup games.
Yeah, and then if it's not going our way, bring the big guns on.
Yeah, and it's very difficult. It's difficult to get into a game if you've got 20 minutes. It's particularly difficult if that game is considered a bit less than as well. It's a Wednesday night with only sort of 500 people, or it's like I sort of feel like that's your time to go out and I'm not saying you play like all the youngsters, but you could play a couple, and really you should be able to do that and not suddenly capitulate to Sunderland or someone. Not that we're playing Sunderland because they're too far north, but you know what I mean. Like, we should be able to give these players 90 minutes and still beat Wolves. I think we're playing Wolves, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah. Wolves.
So yeah,
I think the pre-season on the whole, I think it's been a bit. I think maybe they had the original plan that they were going to go to the Dutch national sort of centre, the sort of Dutch equivalent of St George's Park. Maybe for a fortnight, and then PSG came in, and then so we're like, we'll play that one, and we'll play that at the Amex. So we'll have to sort of chop the first couple of days off the Dutch camp, but then we'll still have a week and a half there, and then Barcelona come in, and they were like, oh blimey, well we obviously can't say no to that, so we'll chop the last couple of days off. So it's. When you do have a pre-season training camp, you go away for a couple of weeks, and you have lots of training and lots of team building, and then you have a couple of friendlies. Like obviously last year we played a couple of Spanish sides. Year before that we actually beat Bayern Munich a few years ago. But it's normally it would be a couple of weeks in the same place, whereas obviously this time they would have they'd have had the PSG game, and then they'd had the travel out to the Netherlands, and then probably not many days before the Genk game, should pronounce them properly, Genk. And then obviously not many days. They've got to fly to Barcelona and stuff. So it's all been a bit disrupted. I mean, I'm sure Dario's had plenty of time with them, and they'll get obviously get lots of time now they're back home. But I think ordinarily it would have been so that may be why they were a bit leggy and a bit maybe not out of sorts, but they weren't ideal circumstances. I think normally when you've got a pre-season game against Barcelona, you'd go to Spain for a training camp, and you would have been there for a couple of weeks already. Yeah. Again, I mean, it was hot in the Netherlands, but it wasn't as hot as it was in Barcelona, so that would have made a difference. So it's been an adventure. I think they've played against one of the most famous sides, if not best, in PSG at the Amex, and they've played against the best team in the world in Barcelona. So I think it's been disrupted and a bit weird pre-season, but it's been exciting, and I think they've got a lot from that.
It feels like it's been quite testing,
and
I would say pretty much for the most part we've come through all of those tests. So and that's, I guess, ultimately what you want from a pre-season, is to go into the new season thinking that everyone's ready, and up to scratch, and it does feel like that is the case. So Yeah, bit of a strange one. Like you say, a bit disjointed in pre-season, but I think everyone is where they need to be. And I don't know whether there'll be another kind of friendly beforehand now. There's obviously a couple
I
of
would
weeks
think
until it
there
starts.
probably is, but it might be a little bit like
It'd
behind
be
closed doors against Lewis or Worthing or someone local, you know.
Or sometimes they'll do intra squads.
Yeah.
So they'll get some of the youngsters up to kind of fill the suspension. They'll put 2 11s out against each other, sort of thing, with the thing of don't kick me, because I won't kick you, you don't kick me, sort of thing. You know, whereas sometimes you might go, oh, let's play Withenshaw or someone, just we'll beat them 10-0, and then they're like kicking lumps out of you. So yeah, no offense to any Withenshaw listeners.
I mean, I just think because WSL 2, are they still in pre-season, or they start soon?
I think so.
Yeah, they start the same time as we do.
Same time now, I think. Yeah,
because National League has started though. So
so might get a couple of games: Southampton, Portsmouth, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, speaking of friendlies, there are a couple of players who have sort of, I think they've started their season now, that have gone out on loan. So we're going to go to our loan correspondent. He's putting on his hat now as I cue up the video. We haven't heard it for a little while. Ben thought it had gone, but it hasn't gone. Are we ready?
Ben on the ball, Ben on the mic, talking women's football every day, every night, from the first big tackle to the last late goal. Ben's got the game, Ben's got the soul.
There we go.
He looks proper Del Boy in that.
It's not.
Get that picture sorted out.
I know. I was doing it on a bit of a whim, and that was the one I could find. So I apologise for that. We'll have to get you a posed one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I don't know where we were last week, but whether did you talk about them last week? Because there's been a couple of bits of news of players going out.
We talked about Carla and OJ going out on loan.
Yeah, Fuka's the only new one.
Yeah, Fuka's the only new one, which I'll splice in.
Yeah, so we've got Carla at Lazio, Liv Johnson at Lewis, Liv Dent at Sunderland, Grace McEwen at Nottingham Forest, and now Fuka. So yeah, I mean the news. I mean, obviously, Grace, on the day that Grace was announced, again they played a friendly and she played. I can't. Oh yeah, they beat somebody 1-0. Who was it? And it was Wolves. They beat Wolves 1-0. So yeah, that's quite nice. And yes, I mean she started again. That's what you want to be seeing, isn't it? That our players are going out and they're playing. And then again, Olivia Johnson started again this weekend. Was it their first? No, it wasn't there, because obviously they drew 1-1 with hashtag when she scored, and this time they were away at Oxford City, and unfortunately they were beaten 3-0. But what does look nice is that their new kit has arrived, because they had to play in their old kit in their first game, because they've I've forgotten the name. That's Hope and Glory. They're making their kit now.
That's right.
But
yeah.
Obviously, there was a bit of a sort of spanner in the works somewhere, so they're back in lovely, proper. Take notes, please, Brighton. Proper stripes, black and red stripes. It looks very nice. So yeah, OJ. You know, I haven't seen any highlights or anything like that, but she started the game, and again, that's what we want, isn't it? We want our players to be playing. And speaking of which, if we head south to the wonderful Carla Camacho, again, she's Lazio had a game in the Serie A Cup against Napoli, and she not only started that, but she scored another 2 goals. So I think, I'm not sure if there's been one in between. She's played 2 games and scored 4 goals. So you know, she can keep that up when she gets home next season. I'll be very happy. But she scored. I think Napoli scored quite early, and then she scored the equaliser, and then they went 2-1 down, and then quite late on, suddenly they got an equaliser, and then they got the 3rd goal, and then sort of 87th minute they got a penalty, and Carla took that, and she took them very coolly as well. Sent the keeper the wrong way, and that sort of stuff. So again, you know, she can bring penalties. I'm sure she's got penalty skills, but that's sort of the first goal was a very good finish, and the second one obviously a very cool finish because it was a penalty. So yeah, keep going. Forza Camacho, but don't get too comfy because you're coming home next season, girl. And so yeah, I think that's about it so far. Obviously, we did mention before that Lily. Oh yes, yeah, we mentioned before, didn't we, that Lily Dent and Grace McKeown were both in the England under-20 squad for that friendly. And unfortunately, the squad for the under-20s World Cup has come out, and Lily is in it, but unfortunately Grace isn't. So, Sunderland will have to do without Grace. So Sunderland will have to do without Lily, for hopefully a few weeks while the under-20s smash their way through that. And that, I was all confused because the first game's against Canada, but the tournament is in Poland. So, So yeah, hopefully Lily can get some good stuff in that.
It's a good way to make a name for yourself in the in the England ranks, isn't it?
Yeah.
We haven't still haven't got like an England international, so if she can keep sort of staying in those age group teams and stuff, then hopefully she's working her way towards.
I mean, she must be very highly thought of. I mean, Grace too. Because I mean, she posted a picture of like 14 months ago. There she was lying in bed with an ACL. So the fact that she really only got back at the very end of last season, she was straight in the England squad, means that they must think pretty highly of her. So yeah, it's hopefully she can really make an impression.
Yeah, and I guess probably to get into that under-23 squad, they're going to want to see you playing relatively regularly, so it kind of makes sense that they're both on loan in WSL2 as long as they get games. But probably to that under-23 team can be quite good, if that makes sense. Like it can have a lot of names where you're like, oh, okay, they're doing quite well at so and so a team. So it sort of feels like, yeah, maybe the next step for them to get from the under-20s to the under-23s is to be playing regularly and kind of holding down a place in a WSL2 team. So we can keep our fingers crossed for that. And of course, once all the season starts proper, we'll have weekly updates on how everyone's getting on.
Hopefully lots of them.
Definitely.
I'll have a couple of goals a week for Carl.
I mean, Golden Boot would be lovely to come back with, wouldn't it? I mean, hopefully not too far ahead of ourselves, but yeah, that would be one thing you could turn up and present. Give me a couple of games, will you? I've got a Golden Boot.
Do I get to start now?
Exactly. Another couple of just minor things to mention. I think I did mention it in the outro last week, but I actually wanted to mention it specifically, which is we have got TikTok now. I always say TikTok like I'm slightly surprised that that's a thing.
I'm an old person on TikTok.
It's always been the sound a clock makes to me, but yeah, we're guided by Claire on TikTok, but my face has appeared on a couple of videos now.
Don't worry, I'm getting Ben on it as well at some point.
Yeah, somehow, some way. So yeah, if you are on TikTok but you're not already aware that SheGulls has a channel, I'm 99.9% sure if you just type in SheGulls, it comes up. It's got a lot of branding and stuff. But I think the actual if you want to go and find that, I think is SheGulls podcast. So
yeah, I just put the podcast on just so it did separate us away from all the other loads,
because there are a couple of other SheGulls on there. Yeah. Although not really to do with football from what I could see, but so yeah, hopefully lots of more stuff on there as we sort of suss it out. Claire's an expert, we'll give it a go. We'll give it a go. We're across all channels now, you see.
You never know where we might turn up.
Exactly. So one of the videos that I did for the TikTok, I think it's called a TikTok, isn't it?
TikTok,
doesn't have was to give everyone the code to our fantasy football. So if anyone's unaware, the fantasy football that was run by, I think they were called Ariel.
It was again with an A.
Yeah, they basically were doing a WSL supported fantasy football league, but when the WSL rebranded and everything, part of the things that they wanted to do was bring that in-house. So if you had a WSL fantasy app last season, it won't be on there anymore. It won't be that those people kind of behind it. It's all done through the WSL app now. That's where you go, make your team, all that good stuff. Once you've done that, it's not the most intuitive of designs, but there is a link you can, or a tab you can tap for leagues. And once you're in leagues, you can click like add to league or something like that anyway. But you will need a code. So I'll give you our code, which is 2GFM7X42. I'll just one more time, 2GFM7X42, and that will get you in the SheGulls League. I think there's about 20 of us in there at the moment, but it always ramps up towards the beginning of the season. So I think it would be quite cool maybe on the extra from time to time to look at our teams and revisit it. So again, probably not going to be important enough to make it onto the main show, but if you're a listener to SheGulls Extra from time to time, we might check in, see how everyone's doing, see if there were any Brighton bargains on there, that sort of thing, you know. So there we go. Anything I forgot to mention off the top of my head? I don't think so.
No,
I think I
we're all
can't.
good considering we've got an extra coming up.
We have got an extra coming up, as I say, that will, for listeners and viewers, that will come later in the week on Wednesday. We'll be talking to Charlie. But yeah, if we've forgotten anything in here that's important, we'll pop it in there for you. So don't worry about anything like that too much. And well, I think that is going to round off this week's show. Remember, you can find us, as always, at SheGulls on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And, of course, Instagram, run by a friend of the podcast, Steve Gibbs, over there in Germany. You can, of course, find us at shegulls.com, where match reports will start to be produced again. Had a little bit of the summer off and a couple of articles over the sort of break, but back to sort of full bore over the course of the season. Hopefully as well, I'll be able to get something up. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work yet, but with the press conferences at the moment, I'm kind of sending them out on WhatsApp to 3 or 4 different groups, kind of potted highlights of what Dario said and things like that. So hopefully I'm going to try and work out a way to do that via the website, and then everyone can just go to one central place to find those notes, because most people seem to find them at least curiously interesting, if not quite useful. So there we go. We're also on Facebook. You can go over there, type in SheGulls Podcast, and we should come up. And whilst you're there, do give Brighton Women fans a follow. And of course, SheGulls Over Sussex, which isn't a group, it's a fan page, but follow it because they'll give you lots of Albion goodies on there too. And I think all that remains for me to say now is a massive thank you to you, Ben.
Well, thank you.
A humongous thank you to you, Claire.
Thanking you.
And I shall say this has been the SheGulls Podcast.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.